the pavement, well, probably pretty painful to have their skin ripped off. But I think that's the way we'd handle it in Arkansas.
That is Arkansas Republican Senator Tom Cotton on Fox News the other day, encouraging vigilantes to, quote, put an end to the nonsense of thousands of Americans protesting by blocking various bridges around the nation.
I agree with you that you have to get to these criminals early. If something like this happened in Arkansas on a bridge there, let's just say I think there'd be a lot of very wet criminals that have been tossed overboard, not by law enforcement, but by the people whose road they're blocking. If they glued their hands to a car or the pavement, well, probably pretty painful to have their skin ripped off. But I think that's the way we'd handle it in Arkansas. And I would encourage most people anywhere that get stuck behind criminals like this who are trying to block traffic to take matters in their own hands. Senator
Cotton thinks his people should just throw these folks off of bridges like the Golden Gate Bridge and rip their skin off. As Jared Yates Sexton put it out on X, he said, it isn't just that Tom Cotton is openly calling for his supporters to carry out violence. It's how blood-curdlingly casual he is in calling for them to carry out that violence. And then he has Cotton's tweet right below that says, I encourage people who get stuck behind the pro-Hamas mobs blocking traffic. Take matters into your own hands to get them out of the way. It's time to put an end to this nonsense. I mean, this is just pure gaslighting on Cotton's part. It's what people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and the MAGA mobsters do all the time. They are calling the thousands of Americans who are peacefully demonstrating against the 33,000 dead Palestinians, most of which have nothing to do with Hamas supporters. He's literally just gaslighting the base because most of those people are not supporters of Hamas. They are supporters of the innocent Palestinian civilians. Well, here's what extremely conservative MSNBC host Joe Scarborough had to say about Tom Cotton's comments.
There are ways to protest and there's ways, I think, not to protest. And this is extraordinarily counterproductive to any cause that you're pushing. But here we have a guy, Tom Cotton, that went to Harvard, undergrad and law school, served in the military, who's talking about throwing people off the Golden Gate Bridge, ripping their skin off. We had a United States senator going on a network, national network, suggesting that Americans rip skin off of people's hands because they're aggravated. And to take matters into their own hands. This is just beyond stupid on his part, beyond dangerous on his part to say this. And I must say, this goes, Tom Cotton that used to be on this show, pre-Trump, would never have said something like that. No. Never.
No. I agree with the sentiment, but I disagree with Joe on this issue. I think that while Tom Cotton might not have said this part out loud before Trump came into the national stage as a politician, I do think that Cotton and many other Trump supporters were still thinking like this inside their heads. This is who they've always been, racist, misogynistic, xenophobic. What Trump did was he gave them permission to say the quiet part out loud to a national audience, to be loud and proud about their hatred and their racism.
This shows how violence and violent rhetoric has become normal practice in the Republican Party. These are the people who are preparing for a guy who has promised to be a dictator from day one.
Listen, nothing is more infuriating, and I could not measure the anger within me if I were disrupted in terms of getting someone to a hospital. Member of the family who was stuck in traffic because of what they did on the Golden Gate Bridge or whatever, wherever it was. But you know what would happen if I get out of my car and grabbed one of the protesters from their cars and threw them off the Golden Gate Bridge? I would be doing 15 to 20 years for manslaughter. There's no doubt about that. Right. That's what would
that's
happen.
what he was saying.
That's what he
said. Throw people off the bridge.
I wouldn't strip anybody's skin off.
Rip their skin off.
But yeah, they're roiling the pot. That is what the MAGA base does. It is what they do all day long. They constantly engage in fear porn, which is what you see nonstop on Fox and Newsmax and OAN and all these other right-wing extremist, and they really are extremist outlets, because what they're doing is they're promoting domestic terrorism. And when the leader of their cult, Donald Trump, is constantly promoting and inciting violence to his cause, is it any wonder that a former Marine, 24-year-old Chance Brannon, and his co-defendant bombed a Planned Parenthood clinic in Costa Mesa, California, because they wanted to start a race war, according to the DOJ charging documents? Brannon pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 9 years in prison for the bombing of the Planned Parenthood clinic. And fortunately, nobody was injured there, although it could have been a very different story had authorities not jumped in at the time. But according to DOJ, he and his co-defendant also had plans to attack the Orange County power grid and an LGBTQ pride night at Dodger Stadium, all in furtherance of a race war. According to the government sentencing memo, Brannon used racial slurs for various minority groups, made hateful comments towards all non-white individuals, and discussed cleansing of the United States of particular ethnic groups. In the weeks leading up to his arrest, when he was still an active duty Marine, Brannon texted a friend, quote, "Can we just be done with elections and have the race war already?" And complained, quote, "People will never do anything if everyone keeps waiting for a race war to start on its own."
Probably pretty painful to have their skin ripped off, but I think that's the way we'd handle it in Arkansas. And I would encourage most people anywhere that get stuck behind criminals like this, who are trying to block traffic, to take matters in their own hands.
Now, is it any wonder that when sitting United States senators say crazy shit like that, that people like Chance Brannon and millions of other are stoked and enraged, some of them to perform violent acts? Or when the former president and current Republican presidential candidate is ginning up stochastic terrorism all the time?
People that are very, very sick with diseases that will be spread all over our nation. But we're going to start on day one with deportation. We have no idea who they are, but they are terrorists. And within moments of my inauguration, we will begin the largest deportation operation in American history. Our country is being poisoned. We're really being poisoned. They talk about the beautiful dream of migrants. It sounds so nice, like in a fairy tale book. But some of these people are monsters, a big percentage of them.
Why do you use words like vermin and poisoning of the blood? The press, as you know, immediately reacts to that by saying, well, that's the kind of language that Hitler and Mussolini used.
Well, that's what they say. I didn't know that, but that's what they say. Because our country is being poisoned.
Remember, Donald Trump posted this photo of himself holding a baseball bat over New York prosecutor Alvin Bragg's head. This was not an accident. It is intentional. And he's more desperate by the day as it appears that this criminal case in Lower Manhattan is moving forward, and that it looks like he will actually be tried by Alvin Bragg's office. Because it's not just Donald Trump and others like him who are on trial here. Our American rule of law, our criminal justice system is on trial. And if Republicans like Tom Cotton and Donald Trump have their way, we will no longer have an FBI joint terrorism office to investigate domestic terrorists like Brannon and so many others who have been incited to violence. We already know that the Trump DOJ quashed any charges against Trump for participating along with Michael Cohen, whom he directed to cover up the hush money payments. But Bill Barr, Trump's toady attorney general, sure made sure that Michael Cohen was punished and sent to prison. And folks, that's how autocracies work. They retaliate against their perceived enemies, whether those people are found guilty or not, and they escape and evade justice for their own selves, no matter how egregious the crimes are. That's the horror of an autocracy, and it's why it is so critically important that we have a functioning system of rule of law that holds everybody to account. I really do hope that that Donald Trump is held to account for the alleged crimes that he has committed. And you know what? We can stop the autocratic movement, but we all need to get out there and do that. So let's stop them in every election, every race, in every town, city, and state across the nation this November. It's going to take all of us. So please like, comment, and share messages like this one to spread the pro-democracy movement out, because we cannot go to a fascist state where people like Tom Cotton and Donald Trump are inciting domestic terrorism and encouraging vigilante justice. It's horrible. All right. My name is Suri Crowe, and you are watching or listening to the MeidasTouch Network. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I do hope to see you back here very, very soon, and I wish you peace.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram at MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.